Welcome to the GrowthPro Edge. We're here to help scale your business, build stronger teams, and sharpen your leadership skills. Hello and welcome to the GrowthPro Edge. I'm your host, Denise Killian with the GrowthPro Group and Trainertainment. Today we're going to be speaking with John Sullivan, who is someone who was on the front lines of the internet and the dot-com boom back in the 90s, and what he did to transition his business from an ad agency to building internet sites for some of the top companies in the world. I think it's remarkable, this story paralleled with what's happening today with AI. John Sullivan, welcome to the GrowthPro Edge.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I am so excited for this conversation, John, because I think you have such a bevy of knowledge that is so important to things that are happening today through your experiences. So I want to jump into that, but first, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm John Sullivan and I'm retired now, so I have plenty of time to think about things and relax. And I never thought I would be good at being retired. Turns out I'm really good at it. It's doing nothing is pretty good sometimes. But what we're going to talk about today has a lot to do with the business that I ran and changed and then became a digital company. But my background wasn't in anything digital. I mean, I went to college. I was an English major, so I didn't know how to program. After that, I went into the Marine Corps and I was lieutenant in the Marine Corps. And then I joined Procter & Gamble and was in sales for them. So to me, that was a good background. Being an English major taught me how to think. Being in the Marines taught me how to lead. And Procter & Gamble was known for being one of the best marketing and sales companies in the country. And I think they still are for marketing. So my father had an advertising agency in South Bend, Indiana, that he started from scratch when he was, probably 35 years old or so. And I decided to go back to the family business and work with my dad on running an advertising agency.
So you took on the advertising business. Was this about the 80s?
Well, I went into the advertising business in the late 70s and worked with my dad. And we were a small advertising agency in South Bend, Indiana, but we had some big clients. And our biggest name client was Whirlpool. Their headquarters was about 35 minutes north of us in St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Michigan. And they used local agencies to do a lot of their brochure work, their point of sale material that you would put on a washing machine or whatever, a brochure, all the dishwashers, all the refrigerators, those sorts of things. And they had a New York agency that did the branding that said, this is what we want our logo to look like. This is the theme that we use. This is who we are, sort of thing. And so I was really involved in particularly working with Whirlpool and a small agency. So I would go get the business. I'd walk down the hallway find the dishwasher manager in charge of marketing and say, hey, what do you need? And we'd get it and we'd do it. I was a copywriter because English major, I could do the copy. And sales. And so that's what I was doing. When I saw the internet came out in about 1990, I think that's when it first really hit or started to hit. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I was initially so attracted to it, but I got on the internet as fast as I could. It was bulletin boards. And then I saw in it that, this could change advertising. It's going to be a completely different world because consumers at home on their computers or dealers can get the information on the products from their desktop. They don't have to go find a brochure. They don't have to read an ad. They don't have to see a TV spot. So I thought this could be exciting. But then it was just a matter of communicating. Okay, how does a manufacturer communicate with a consumer? And it was just, wow, this is pretty cool. Instead of waiting till they are watching TV and their 30-second spot comes on, when a consumer is interested in a dishwasher, they can just go online and find it instantly.
Mhm.
And I was also afraid of what this is going to do to my business. Um, when we worked as an agency for a company like Whirlpool, most of our billing came from printing. So the business model then was we charged them for the hours, for the writing and the creative, but we marked up the printing because agencies marked up TV spot time. They get 15%. And so that just carried over to the print. So we were always looking for companies that did a lot of printing because we worked just as hard, but we made more money because they would print 100,000 brochures instead of 5,000 brochures. So that was interesting. And the other part was that the brochures didn't necessarily go to the consumers, they went to the dealers. And the dealers used them for their salespeople and would hand them out to their best customers that were really interested. So it was kind of a two-step process. So I understood the relationship between a big brand, manufacturer, the independent dealers or the retailers. Sears too, we was one of their big retailers, and we work with them, and then the consumer. So it all kind of stitched together for me. And then I saw this thing that could take me out of business. Who's going to need to print anything anymore? They're just going to go online and get it. So I thought, wow, I better pay attention to this.
So that curiosity was piqued not only just because you're curious by nature, which I think is very important for any business owner or any human being, right? We should all be curious, but beyond that, recognizing this could be a threat. This could be something that could overhaul my business or take my business out. So instead of being afraid of it, you leaned into it.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And I needed help though, because we didn't know as much, no one knew too much about the internet back then. Okay, we just knew it was coming and it was something big. So I did my research, but there were no books on it. There were nobody knew much about it. So I went out to Notre Dame and I knew a professor out there in the business school, and he was interested in it because obviously he was working with all these MBA students and they were interested in it. So he was. So we kind of formed a group. He brought in a couple of professors. I got a couple of other business people, and we would meet occasionally and just kick around ideas. Where's this going? What can we do? How's it going to change our business? And it was that made a big difference. You can't do this all by yourself. You've got to kind of have some help and have some smart people that you can talk to, especially when it's so new and changing so fast. So that was a big help for me, and that gave me more confidence to do the things that we went ahead and did. In fact, I ended up guest lecturing in Notre Dame Business School. He would have me come in because the students had ideas, but at that point I was already executing ideas, and I could see the challenges of your great idea, but how do we execute it? And then how does it make money? How do you make money on this thing? Because you have to monetize this or we're in big trouble. So
Yeah.
it was a good experience. And I went to Notre Dame. So it was perfect for me. And it was, great people, great professors, and it made a big difference. Well, that was the next challenge then. So, okay, so this is cool. How do we build something? How do we get something going? And so I just stayed out at Notre Dame and looked for students, and they had kind of a network of people who had already graduated, but were also interested in a job in the industry that was just starting up, and they were good at it. So I found one young guy. It's fantastic. He was smart. He knew it all. I mean, he loved it. He was the programmer. He could do all of this stuff, but he didn't understand business at all. In fact, that was one of the big problems with the young people then. They didn't understand two-step distribution. They didn't understand how a dealer worked with the manufacturer, how advertising worked. So I was able to help him. And then eventually, when I had the advertising, was just in the advertising agency, I could do every job in the place. I could do anything. I mean, I wasn't an artist. I couldn't do the design, but I could do everything else. I could do the copywriting, the sales. I could do the books. I could do everything. The radio spots. I could work to get the television spots done, but I ended up building a company that I couldn't do anything. I didn't know how to program. I still don't know how to program, and I don't want to learn how to program. So it was a it was a unique issue, and I think you still have that today. I know a lot of people that may be watching this are thinking about AI and all that. And it's you don't have to know how to program AI or how to build it. You just have to know somebody who does and then use it properly. In fact, it's even easier today because they have the products already built that you can just lease or use or subscribe to and go. So in that sense, and some other things as well, but this was a little bit unique. This was nobody knew how to do it, and so you had to learn. So I went to Whirlpool and I said, "You guys got to be on the internet." And they said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's way cool." And they said, "Get out of here. It's not way cool. We got to make money on this thing. How does this help?" So then I I had to figure out how to build an internet site because the other thing is I didn't have a customer. I had never done it before. So that was the risk. That's where I think you have a risk in taking time away from the normal day-to-day business and trying to learn something new. That's a risk. But there's and in a way, it's a financial risk. But the financial risk for me was, how do I build a site? How do I even find a customer? I mean, Whirlpool wasn't going to let me do it because I'd never done it before. So at that time in South Bend, we had the College Football Hall of Fame. And the chairman of the board of the College Football Fame was the editor of the South Bend Tribune, and I knew him. So I went to him, and he was in it too. He was thinking, this is cool because he's running a newspaper, and how's that going to affect him? So I said, I'd like to build a website for the College Football Hall of Fame. And I said, I'll give it to you. I'm not going to charge you for it. We're just going to build it. And he said, what if I don't like it, John? I said, if you don't like it, we'll take it down. In fact, if I'm going to be the worst judge, I'll take it down if I don't like it. And I'm going to be tougher on it than you're going to be on it. So, because I didn't tell him this, but I want to go to Whirlpool with this and I want to show something that's good and it's going to work. So we built the College Football Hall of Fame website. It worked perfectly. I mean, we had a lot of problems, but my one guy from Notre Dame did the whole darn thing, you know. And so it looked good. We got a lot of good data on it. We opened it up to the world. We had a lot of people coming to see it. It was really going well. So I went back to Whirlpool and I said, what I can do it. Look at what I've done. Here's College Football Hall of Fame. What do you think? They liked it. They said that. He said, but why should we do it though? It's still kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I said, you're going to save a lot of money on printing. We're not going to print brochures anymore. We're going to put this information on the internet, and consumers and dealers and your customers are going to see it and get the information that we put in these brochures. And I reminded them, I mean, it was millions of dollars, not more than with us. I mean, with everybody included that they spent on printing. And I said, and I would have never said this before that. I said, you know, every brochure we've ever printed for you, by the time it gets off the press, it's out of date because the dishwasher guy changed the spec. I mean, it just happens. And he only printed them once a year. So I told him, I said, listen, one of these days when you change a spec, I'm going to sit here with you and I'm going to change it on my computer and it's going to be on the internet instantly. That's how fast. That's business at the speed of thought. And we're going to do that. So they said, okay, John, let's go do it. So they had an off brand called Roper. I mean, it was a builder brand. And I worked real well with that marketing guy who was in charge of the Roper brand. And he pushed for it because he wanted to try it. And so we built the Roper brand first. But another part of changing the business model, I went back to the office that day and they knew I'd been trying to sell Whirlpool on this idea. And I said, great news, guys, we got it. We're going to build the Roper site. That'll be the first consumer brand that they've ever done on the internet, and we're going to do it. And one of the account executives raised his hand and he said, John, how did you talk them into this? And I said, well, I just talked about printing and how we're going to change printing and save them a lot of money. I mean, it's just perfect for them. And he says to me, but wait a minute, that's how we make money. You're ruining our business for it. He said,
Right.
shut up, kid. Don't worry about it. We're gonna figure that out later. But this is a challenge. If we're not good at this, somebody else is going to be good at this and kind of take us out of it. So that was the the challenge or the risk was twofold. One, I had to spend some money to do it. I had to spend time to learn about it, but then I had to risk the business on it. I mean, it was okay. So I'm going to spend more time on this internet thing that it's going to diminish our where we get a good bit of our income from printing. And so, but I just knew it was too strong. It was going to happen.
Right. And the thought of having the foresight to say the importance of having information immediately accessible and available that you can update instantly, all of those things was so novel then. And it's something that we now expect in every aspect of our lives, unfortunately. But then that was such forward thinking and such a novel idea and notion that other companies were like, how is that actually going to work? What does that look like? And for you to have that foresight and create a plan around it is quite remarkable.
And then it just took off. I mean, we did the Roper brand, and the Whirlpool guy in charge of Whirlpool said, let's do Whirlpool brand. Let's do that. Another brand called a State brand. Let's do that one. And then the KitchenAid. Let's do KitchenAid. So, I mean, we just rolled into the appliance industry one right after the other with a different marketing theme to each one of them, just like you would do the brochures. And then so we were out there running fast. And the theme was business at the speed of thought. And the other one was fail fast. Put your website up there and be ready to change it, but don't sit around and overthink it. Get it out there, find the mistakes, find the improvements. And we made a huge amount of improvements in the first 6 months to a year because we just learned so much. We had some bad ideas about what the internet was when we first launched, but we were on the front lines trying to figure it out. And it was the best way to do it.
It's so fascinating because there are two things that you said there that I want to kind of dig into a little bit. So many times, leaders of companies feel like it has to be perfect. We can't roll it out until it's perfect. And that paralyzes their growth, paralyzes their opportunity. And at the end of the day, ain't nothing perfect.
Right. And I would compare it to your print brochure. You have to wait a year to fix it. Who cares if we get a spec or not even a spec? No, a spec, it wasn't really wrong. It just changed since we printed this brochure. Now, if it changes, now we can get the word out there even faster. So fix it fast, fail fast, fix it fast, just keep on moving. It was all about speed.
Yeah,
And the other thing we did, because the internet eventually crashed, in around the year 2000, they call it the dot-com
the
bubble.
dot-com bubble burst. That's right.
And because it grew so fast and there was so much VC, it's so much like AI, so much VC money in there, so much investment in there, it had to break. And we had to open a Chicago office to get the kind of talent that we needed to do all the things. We ended up with like 70 people programming in our Chicago office and South Bend couldn't support that. So we kept our South Bend office. We moved to Chicago, and all these companies sprang up all over the place around us. We could look in the windows and see these other .com companies, but we survived the crash and the bubble because what we did is we just put the way we looked at it. Here is the business model. Let's put the internet on top of it, make it cheaper, better, faster, and improve it. We didn't try to go out and invent something brand new.
Fail fast, fix fast. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, fix it. But I call it the grace of failure because
Right.
we learn so much from from a failure. But if we are afraid to fail, we're not going to do anything.
Right. And we failed. We, in a lot of ways, I call it we adjusted, or military, we tacked in a different direction. You, the IT departments at these Fortune 500 companies that we were doing business with didn't get involved with the internet at the beginning, but they eventually got involved with it. And they said, who's this little guy in South Bend, Indiana, doing your internet site when we're a Fortune 500 company? We got a staff of all these IT. So they, over the time, took over, and there was nothing we could do. We couldn't stop it. So we had to adjust. So we kind of stayed with the printing model, and we started to build internet sites for their dealers so that they had the product information on their internet site that was up to date, and they could have a checklist. They would go, these are the products I want on my internet site, and just do a checklist. And they were forced in to do some, and then we did it. Here's your internet site, or the section of your internet site that covers Whirlpool. And one gentleman from Whirlpool said, well, John, why don't you build a brochure that way? So the IT department wasn't interested in this now. Now we're really back to being a advertising agency in the digital age. So it was the same idea, same software, more or less. And we developed a dealer could just sit there, had a customer in front of them. They wanted to leave. He could build a brochure for them right there and then hand it to them. And they printed it just off their local printer and had something memorable that they could take home. And they didn't have to give them the $3.50 color brochure. So, and it was up to date. Had their name on it. It was perfectly customized. So that worked out real well. So you had
So
to,
that reinvention, right? Of here's a problem, here's an issue, or here's something that customers are telling me that they're needing, or something that I see that is needed. Going out and finding people that know how to do that thing, because it can't be just the one person, right? You don't need to
right.
be the internet expert. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be somebody who understands and works with AI. You find the people that do, bring them on, give them the empowerment to figure things out, have the grace of failure. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to have to keep adjusting.
Right. And that is kind of the lesson that I lucked out and learned in this whole thing was it's the way your business is. So it was my dad and myself. Okay. So, and I think a lot of people maybe watching this podcast are from family businesses and the transition to go through. And the timing was just right. When I came into the business, I learned advertising, but I didn't really grow yet into the accounting and the business aspects of it. Who's going to mow the lawn, who's going to fix the refrigerator that broke. I was just concentrating on the business. And then when the internet came, my dad said, yeah, go for it. I'll take care of all this other stuff. You don't worry about all this other stuff. You focus on this, and we'll get other people to handle all this other stuff around you. And I think that's true today in any business where you can get hung up on the day-to-day stuff. So buried in who's mowing the lawn or whatever, but just too much, or solving the little problems. And you don't give yourself enough time to look at the big picture, look towards the future, to spend an afternoon with a bunch of other businessmen trying to figure out what to do with this or how this works, and to do the research on it. Then to not that you have to learn how to do the new stuff, but find people who do. So if you can do anything, outsource the day-to-day stuff as much as you possibly can. And then you go ahead and look at the big picture. And that's hard to do because you get used to doing the day-to-day stuff and you're good at it. But we also used to tell even our clients, if you're doing business the same way you did it last year, you're going out of business. And I think that's even more so today. If you're still thinking next year, just add inflation into the budget and then we're going to go and we're going to keep running with this stuff, it isn't going to happen because it changes so fast. So
Somebody's got to be minding the store, as it were. But you can't mind the store and look to the future and see the bigger picture and plan out where are we going to be in the next 6 months or, 6 years.
Right. And it is noise, but it's also comfort because you feel comfortable solving those problems. Okay. And you get kind of addicted to being the smartest guy in a room, solving these problems and it's hard to jump out of that, jump into a room where you aren't the smartest guy in a room and you don't know exactly what's going on, but you have a niche where you can build it together. That's the hardest for I think a family business to be able to jump to the new stuff and the somewhat conflict between the older generation and the younger generation. And my dad was smart enough to let me do the new generation thing, and that was a blessing. And that's doesn't always happen. So, but that was
Yeah.
good.
No, that's so extraordinary. And we've talked about this, the parallels of your experience and how you were able to be on the forefront and see it coming of the internet and of course the dot-com boom that happened throughout the 90s and all the way up until the bubble burst. So
2001.
right, right. And listen, AI is going to burst too, right? Like
It will
everything does. That's the whole notion of it expands and then it comes back
contract.
down, just as the internet did. But it's not just like the internet, it's not going away, right? So the newer technologies aren't going away.
Right,
So embrace it and lean into it.
right. And it's
Yeah.
hard to do, but that's basically my story.
I think it's an amazing story. And, I was earlier this week having a conversation with someone and he was stressing and stressing about, well, which AI is the right one for my
Right,
business? And I just looked at him, I said, whichever one you pick, that's the
right.
right one,
That's
right?
it.
Just do it.
Fail fast, find out quick. Let's go, find out,
Right?
and then you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah. So, and of course, AI is moving so fast. By the end of this conversation, it will have changed significantly, right? So
Right.
just get in.
Just get in. And but again, like the risk is a little bit monetary, a little bit of your time and effort and energy, but the reward is huge. And you don't know even what it's going to be. Amazon didn't know what they were going to grow into when they started selling books online.
So many parallels to what's happening today and such great advice that you're giving. So thank you for your time, John. If people have questions and want to reach out to you and for some advice or for to hear more about your story, how can they do that? How can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can use my email at john@johnsullivan.com.
Perfect.
I got on the internet so early I could buy my own name.
I was
As
going to
a
point that out. I love it, right? I absolutely love it. John, what a remarkable story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us and sharing your takeaways and insights and continue to have that curiosity mindset and to seek learning. Continue doing that. That's fantastic. Thank you, sir.
you're the best, Denise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're ready to grow, you can reach us at thegrowthpro.com and set up a free growth call with one of our coaches. And once again, would like to thank our sponsors for today, A&A Global, Betson, Embed, Party Center Software, Simnox, Schaefer, and Roller. Until next time, I'm Denise Killian for the GrowthPro Group. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for the extraordinary.